Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. The world is getting hungrier. We have details for a new UN report. Responding to racism, the women attacked by President Trump say they will not be distracted by hate. Strikes and sales at Amazon, not much of a two-for-one deal. And we tell you about a British tradition which dates back hundreds of years and involves these prized animals, not those two old guys. And at the top of our newsfeed, 821 million. That is the number of people around the world who are malnourished. The United Nations has published a wide-ranging report looking at humanity's food supply, and it comes with some upsetting conclusions. Here's Adama.
The world is losing the fight against hunger. That's according to a new report from the UN. More than a quarter of the world's population, that's more than 820 million people, do not have enough to eat. The state of food security and nutrition in the world says this figure is up 9 million from the previous year, and it's the third year the number of hungry people has grown. It underscores the challenge of achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goal of zero hunger by 2030. Hunger is on the rise in almost all of Africa's regions, making it the place with the most alarming prevalence of undernourishment at almost 20%. Western Asia shows a continuous increase in malnourishment since 2010, with more than 12% of its population hungry today. It's slowly rising in Latin America and the Caribbean, with 7% of people not getting the amount of nutrition they need. This year's report takes into account people suffering from outright to moderate levels of food insecurity, and those forced to compromise the quality and quantity of food they consume. Overall, 2 billion people do not have total access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food.
2 billion people. This is the highest number that I ever heard in my life. And I'm on this business for a long time.
In North America and Europe, 8% face food insecurity. At the same time, obesity and related illnesses are becoming more common amongst school-aged children and adults.
We simply cannot afford to lose out on the human capital that these children represent because of poor nutrition, which is why we must adopt a life course approach to nutrition from the earliest days.
Growing inequality is exacerbating these problems. Those with lower incomes will either not have enough food in poorer countries or only be able to afford bad food in the rich ones. And this trend is not going to change anytime soon.
Okay, let's take a look at some other things that we saw on social media. Now, Trump is a racist is still a top trend after President Trump's latest tweets. And he has just tweeted again, defending what he said over the weekend by basically saying they were mean to me first. He wrote that the women, who he calls the Democrat Congresswomen, have been spewing some of the most vile, hateful, and disgusting things ever said by a politician in the House or Senate, and yet they get a free pass and a big embrace from the Democrat Party. He then claims they are anti-Israel, anti-USA, and pro-terrorist. He then rambles on a bit more, ending the tweet with sad. Yes, sad really is the word. Well, last night, the Congresswomen in question said this.
He does not know how to defend his policies. So what he does is attack us personally.
I do not expect every time there is a white supremacist who attacks, or there is a white man who kills in a school or in a movie theater, I don't expect my white community members to respond on whether they love that person or not. And so I think it is beyond time. It's beyond time to ask Muslims to condemn terrorists.
Now, the only two black Republicans, Tim Scott and Will Hurd, have responded to what Trump tweeted. They both called it racist. Other Republicans, the white ones, have not used that word, but have instead used a word melange of unacceptable, inappropriate, wrong, appalling, etc., etc. But Twitter, the platform used by the president, haven't flagged up what he said as racist content, and the tweets remain on his Twitter feed. Now, Trump's tweets may also be a distraction. All of this was happening as his administration is bringing in a new and potentially momentous change to its immigration policy. For anyone seeking asylum in the US who passes through another nation to get to the US, they must apply in that country to find out if the US has deemed it safe. If they don't do so and continue on to the States and apply there, they will be automatically rejected. It's called the Safe Third Country Policy, and it's set to be challenged in court as it is actually in contravention of the UN Convention on Refugees. Now, just a few days ago, the Vice President of America went to a migrant detention center. These places have been described as concentration camps by some.
This is very tough stuff, but I must tell you that, different from what we hear from many of the critics, I couldn't be more impressed with the compassionate work that our Customs and Border Protection are doing here at this facility.
Time for Congress to act to end the flow of families that are coming north from Central America to our border is now.
And next, Amazon are one of the most dominant retailers in the world. So when they decide to have a sale, people part with their money quick fast. But for the people who have to put the stuff you've bought into a box, it's not quite such a fun time. So some of them have walked off the job.
Jeff Bezos is the wealthiest person in the world. Everybody knew, right? Does he need more money? No! Does he need more blood money? No!
Thousands of Amazon workers across the world are walking out on strike on the day Amazon has decided will be one of their biggest sales days. Workers argue supporting the 48-hour discount fest is like crossing a picket line. They say inside Amazon's warehouses, which they deceptively call fulfillment centers, they are subject to unrealistic quotas, limited bathroom breaks, mandatory holiday shifts, and they need pain medication to survive their 10-hour workdays. Last year, Amazon rang up $235 billion in online sales. Ahead of Prime Day, they released a statement saying,
"Groups are conjuring up misinformation to work in their favour, when in fact we already offer industry-leading pay, benefits and a safe workplace for our employees."
Amazon has committed to paying $15 an hour for all full-time staff, as well as offering healthcare and paid leave in the US. In the UK, where it employs 29,500 people, a spokesperson said the company offered industry-leading pay starting at £9.50 an hour and was the employer of choice for thousands of people across the country. The workers face a new threat, an army of robots. The company showed off a New Jersey facility last week that is moving toward becoming more automated and safe. Amazon says it has set aside funds to retrain warehouse employees to work with robots. So future Amazon workers may not have such strict quotas to reach, or more likely, a job at all.
Okay, to India now, where Nia has a story for us about school truancy, and one of the regional governments there has come up with a very 2019 solution. Oh, and it's not the students who are the problem.
For you and me, this may just be a selfie, but for the government in Uttar Pradesh, one of India's largest states, This is an attempt to try and ensure that teachers in government schools show up every single day. In the Barabanki district of Uttar Pradesh, the government has said that teachers must stand outside their classrooms by 8 a.m. every morning, click a selfie and upload it on a government portal to ensure that they're marking their attendance. The reason the government has done this is because the state is notorious for teachers not showing up to classrooms and often even subletting their own positions to other junior teachers in the state. Now, opinion on this proposal here is slightly mixed.
Better would be if they put some CCTV cameras in school, maybe in the corridors, in the classrooms, so you can better monitor the teachers the whole day. How do they teach or something? Just taking selfies at 8 a.m. I don't think it will help, because by any ways they can come take selfies and go.
There's also been a lot of online chatter about this proposal, many saying that the fact that technology is being used for compliance is a true reflection of our times. Rajni is calling it peak 2019, also expressing disbelief that instead of students, the worry of teachers missing schools here is the bigger headline. We've got another Twitter user, though, who's disagreeing with the entire proposal entirely, saying there will be margins for error. For example, there could be network issues preventing teachers from uploading their selfies, or in many cases, there could be an attempt to upload the same photo every day. The government says it's confident that at least to some extent there will be compliance by the teachers.
Next, a dinosaur of a British MP has made even more of a fool of himself than usual on Twitter. Have a look at this. Spin around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. The taxi company Uber say their top executives will be given more money if they can improve diversity within the company. They want more women in top jobs. It's a PR stunt by a company whose founder had to stand down because of allegations of sexual harassment and gender discrimination a couple of years ago. This man, James Alex Fields, an avowed white supremacist who killed a woman and injured other people after driving his car into a crowd protesting white supremacy in the city of Charlottesville in 2017, has been sentenced to life in prison plus 419 years. After the murder, President Trump said that there were good people on both sides of this protest. One side of the protest was populated by neo-Nazis. And the new British £50 note will have Alan Turing's face on it. He created a code-breaking machine during World War II, which allowed the British military to intercept Nazi Germany's war plans. Despite helping win the war, the British government prosecuted him for being gay in 1952. He killed himself in 1954. His placement on the note is being celebrated all around the world. And now to the UK, where a bunch of people have been counting birds, one royal one in particular. But there it's called upping. Swan Upping, to be exact. Every year since the 12th century, Brits have been counting how many of these big white birds there are in the country. It's because for hundreds of years they were eaten by kings and queens at fancy feasts, and they wanted to know how many of the delicious waterfowl they could get to eat each season. These days they are not eaten apparently, but they all belong to Queen Elizabeth II, and what she eats in the privacy of her many homes is her business. And that will do from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again soon.